All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Ryan here with the Indiana Weather Network. Give me a thumbs up in chat if my audio is okay, and let me know where you're watching from. We'll go ahead and get started here in just a brief minute. We'll wait for some people to hop in here. We have Kirsten in chat from Martinsville. We got Ashley in chat as well. Good evening, or good morning, goodness. Good morning. Current time is 10 a.m. We'll wait for some people to pop in chat here. They'll get started in just a brief minute. All good. Thumbs up. Perfect. Grant County, Kokomo. Franklin County, Columbus, Evansville, Bedford, Burlington, Spencer, Newcastle. All right, we got some people in chat here. Let's talk about our severe weather threat today. A lot of information going on out there. And really it comes down to a few couple of things to talk about. We have two rounds we're going to watch today for severe weather. Round one focused in after right around 1 o'clock in northern portions of the state. And then round two coming a bit later on tonight for southern portions of the state. So kind of like a 1-2 punch, but really for different areas. High temps today on your screen, as you see, going to be in the 70s for a lot of us. May touch 80 if you're really south of the I-70 corridor. But overall concern today is more focused in on the severe risk per the SPC. We do have the entire state of Indiana in a level 2 slight risk, and that's going to be the yellow zone here from Gary, South Bend, Fort Wayne, Muncie, all the way down here to the Kentucky border. And then we do have a level 3 enhanced risk here in the orange color for Terre Haute over to about Bloomington, Jasper, Evansville, Vincennes. That's going to be the highest concern today. And also newly added at the 9 a.m. update further to our west for our friends over the St. Louis and Illinois region is a level 4 moderate risk. Hazards today, the primary one is going to be damaging wind. Now, the winds today between 60 and 70 miles per hour at their peak. The forecast on your screen is probability based, so the probability of seeing severe wind within 25 miles of a point. So for example, in the yellow zone for Fort Wayne area, we'll pick on Fort Wayne this morning. If you live in Fort Wayne, you have a 15 to 29% chance of seeing a damaging wind gust over 50 miles per hour or greater within 25 miles of you. That goes for any place in the yellow zone. Now, move to the red zone, chances increase. Your probability is now 30 to 44% for places like Lafayette, downtown Indy, all the way down to the Kentucky border by Corydon. And then move further to the west in the pink zone. That's your highest corridor today for probability. It is a 45% to 59% chance of seeing a severe damaging wind gust in that pink zone for places from Terre Haute down to right around Bloomington, Jasper, Evansville, and Vincennes area. Pretty high risk today for damaging wind. Also, with this threat, there is a chance for a tornado or several tornadoes, depending on where you're at in the state here. On the green zone from South Bend to Fort Wayne down to Muncie, a 2 to 4% probability of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of a point. Move west into that red zone, we do have a 5 to 9% chance for places like Gary, Lafayette, downtown Indy, Bloomington, and Jasper areas. Move further to the west in the yellow zone by Terre Haute, Vincennes, down to Evansville. It is a 10 to 14% probability of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of your location. Two things to note with the risk today for tornadoes. We have this black outlined area. We call it hatching. The red zone of this hatching, this area, they're saying that we could have EF2 type tornadoes possible within that black hatch zone. Also new for this year, the SPC has introduced double hatching. It's confusing, I get it, but it kind of communicates risks a little bit better here. If you notice, we have one type of hatching over here, over Illinois, and especially down here into Indiana. A second type of hatching here for Vincennes primarily, and that's what we call a SIG2 intensity. They're basically just saying we could see EF3 type tornadoes in that zone. Biggest risk, though, is across Illinois, but that does butt very close into Indiana there for the southwest portions of the state. The hail risk today, personally, I don't really think hail is a huge concern, but they do have a risk, 5 to 14% probabilities in that brown color for South Bend, Muncie, Indy areas. In the yellow zone, it is 15 to 29% probability of seeing hail there. There is a hatched zone for Terre Haute, Vincennes, as well as Evansville for potential golf ball size hail or larger. Again, I think the hail risk is kind of shunted further to the west as storms are first developing in Illinois. I think we may have some residual large hail in Indiana, but I don't really see too large of a hail threat tonight based on the model guidance I see. Now, speaking of model guidance, we have a couple of things to discuss and talk about here this morning. Current time is 10:06 a.m. We do have a couple showers and storms out there. This is your live radar. Evansville getting a couple showers and a couple lightning strikes down there. We do have some more substantial storms currently in Illinois. These are going to likely stay in Illinois, if not weaken by the time they get here. So this round, not really focused in on this initial band here across Marion, Illinois, up through about Decatur, Illinois. But back here, this line coming out of the Quincy area, this line is going to be one to watch here as it races across Illinois and takes aim at us in the west central and northwest portion of the state. This is not our main round, though. Our main round comes later on tonight. But here's your forecast model guidance. You do see that squall line over here being shown on the models in Illinois. This is what we're going to watch closely here as it progresses towards us in that west central northwest corner of the state. Here's 1 p.m. and then here's 2 p.m. It looks like a pretty decent squall line from roughly the, we're going to say Rensselaer area down toward about Terre Haute maybe. And it does move into the state between 2 and 3 p.m. according to this model. This is Eastern time. And as it does so, it may bring a chance for damaging wind as well as a couple spin-up tornadoes with that line as it progresses in. But the good news is, as it progresses eastward toward Kokomo and eventually toward like Bluffton and Fort Wayne areas, it does weaken out significantly. And then that will eventually turn into more garden variety in nature with maybe some gusty winds embedded there. But it'll be at its strongest across the northwest corner and west central corner here of the state from, again, roughly, we're going to say Valparaiso, Rensselaer area, down toward about the Kokomo area, to about Indianapolis, over toward about Terre Haute. That box, we're calling it round one. Now, 1 p.m. to about 5 p.m. will be your main time frame for that one. And then attention is going to turn back to the west as the main squall line will develop here across Illinois. There is some other pop-up storms to watch here earlier on around dinner time frame. Those could be severe as well. But our main concern is this squall line that develops later on after dinner, 7, 8 p.m. and after, across Illinois. That will be the big daddy main severe threat. If we're going to get anything substantial today, it's going to be with that line here later on tonight. Here's 9 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. It does move into the state, but it stays primarily along and south of I-70. 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., and by about 1 a.m. or so, that line has moved out of our state. So really a messy day today, but still substantial with two main areas of concern. The first one is with round 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern across west central and northwest Indiana. Then round 2 after, we're going to say 6 p.m., but likely a bit after 8 p.m. for South Indiana around that 8 p.m. to about 1 a.m. time frame. And again, we could see some showers and storms between those areas, but overall risk today seems highest with those two lines and those two time frames. Damaging wind, primary concern, cannot rule out a few tornadoes, spin-up type, likely going to be EF0, EF1 type tornadoes, but cannot rule out a stronger one if everything comes together just perfectly. Our concern or our take on today's forecast looks a bit different than the SPCs. Again, this is not supposed to match. This is kind of our internal thoughts. We think the risk is definitely highest across that orange zone from Terre Haute, Indy, down to Bloomington and Corydon, even back over to Evansville as that line moves in later on tonight. Level 2 risk there for Lafayette, Muncie, Richmond, Rochester, Gary, South Bend. Primarily, most of the area here is for that round 1 potential further north. But if you are over toward the Ohio side from Richmond on south to Cincinnati areas, that comes later on after like midnight for you guys over there. By that time, the line should weaken enough, hence why we stopped our level 3 risk between Indianapolis and Richmond. And if you're up in Fort Wayne and Angola area, your risk today looks to be minimal for both rounds. Still get some gusty showers and storms up there, but overall severe for you guys seems to be lower in nature, hence why we went hence why we went level 1 up there in that northeast corner of the state. That is the forecast from us today, guys. We'll be live later if need be. Any questions or comments, feel free to chime in. We will go ahead and get you guys up to speed here for the next 5 or 10 minutes. So feel free to ask away. Yeah, Terre Haute's in a spot, Tiffany, where you're kind of between both lines. I'd be more concerned with round 2 later on tonight than I would be with round 1. I think round 1 takes aim more so toward Lafayette, Rensselaer, and Rochester areas. Anderson is within the level 3 risk, but you're close to level 2. They're kind of on the border. What time will the first line hit Muncie? So the first line, by the time it gets to Muncie, will be likely weaker in nature. I expect it right around the 5 p.m. time frame for you guys over there. I work evenings at the hospital in Crawfordsville. How concerned do we need to be overnight? Overnight is fine. Crawfordsville area, I would expect your main threat tonight to be right around the we're going to say 8 to we're going to say 11 p.m. time frame. After that, things should wind down pretty quickly. How high is the tornado risk for Indy? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd put it at about a 4 or so. So you guys are just tuning in, asking about locations and timing. I'll go ahead and time this out for you guys again. Round 1 comes into the state as early as right around 2 p.m. or so. This is a very fast-moving line across Illinois. So you see at 2 p.m. here, it's still about a county or so away from the Indiana border. And 3 p.m., it's about a county into Indiana. So this thing is flying across Illinois into Indiana. So between 2 or so p.m., expect round 1 to impact areas across the northern half of the state from roughly Terre Haute to Indianapolis and points northward. The highest concern for severe weather is going to be on the western half of the northern part of the state, because as the line moves east, it will die off in nature. Here at 4 p.m., here's 5 p.m. By 5 p.m., you can see that this area is pretty much weakened out here. Perhaps a little bit of gusty showers, if, for example, down here by the East Indy area, but overall the risk is centered 1 p.m. or so, and then ending right around 4 or 5 p.m. in north central Indiana there. And then round 2 comes later on tonight. We could see a couple earlier storms out ahead of the round 2 around the 6 p.m. time frame there. These could be severe as well, but the main concern is going to be behind that later on after 8 p.m. The line develops in Illinois, and that takes aim at southern Indiana as the evening goes on. 11 p.m., here's midnight, 1 a.m., and by the time we get to 1, 2 a.m., storms are out of the state. So 2 rounds, multiple areas of storms and showers today. So we're going to get a lot of rain today for sure, but not everybody's going to see severe weather. I really need this rain to stop as my yard squishes when I walk on it. Well, I have bad news for you, Amy. I have very bad news for you. The rain with this system is going to be quite a soaker. The entire state at a ½ inch or above a ½ inch. South Indiana and central Indiana, 1 to 3 inches, if not a bit higher amounts localized in nature. Don't be shocked if you have flash flooding and localized flooding due to these rain and storms tonight. By the time we get to Tuesday morning, we are in quite a soaking rain here. Again, 1 to 3 inches, perhaps a bit higher as well in some spots. All the times I'm saying, Jesse, are Eastern time. So if you're in Central time zone, take an hour off. I think Crawfordsville, I think you guys are okay from that first round. Again, we're watching the round develop in front of our eyes right now here in Illinois. Right now, the initial impression that I'm getting is it's kind of moving to the north a bit, but it's also a bit further south than the models have it. But you're looking at this area here from Fort Madison all the way down here toward Bowling Green. Again, this is Illinois area. Actually, it's moving out of Missouri currently into Illinois. But this is what's going to head our way later on this afternoon. This is round one. It should take aim somewhere here as it moves to the northeast across Rensselaer, Lafayette, down toward about Terre Haute, and then points northward here. This is going to be your area of concern, I think, for severe with this line. I'm not overly concerned for what's ahead of this, but we're still going to watch it just in case. If this goes severe, likely going to be a little bit of a hail risk with these, and this one back here will be a wind risk. A lot of doodles on the screen here. Let's delete these all. There we go. So again, these would be a hail threat primarily if they do make it into Indiana. Why is I'm not even clicking my mouse? This is radar proxy glitched out. Again, this is going to be a hail risk. And then this line back here, wind, can't rule out a tornado with this as it moves to the northeast toward west central and northwest Indiana. All right, back to the chat. Will the intensity of round two be impacted by how far the first round ends up reaching south? Basically, you can think of it that way, yes, because wherever round one plays out, the round two risk will probably be along and south of that line, just because there's probably outflow boundaries and other things going for being left behind that complex here. So yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Wherever that first line tracks, the next round will be south of that area. Will the risk for tornadoes drop the later it gets? Good question, Sierra. And the answer is gradually. Not going to be a sharp decline, but yeah, the later it gets, the lesser the threat becomes. But because the line is so fast moving, we're going to likely see the risk carry across much of southern Indiana later on tonight for that risk for tornadoes. I think the main concern, though, should be damaging wind. I think a couple spin-ups are likely tonight in that line. But most spin-ups are usually brief and weak in nature, so that's at least the good news. This is your live radar currently, just for reference. This is not a model. This is live radar. If I zoom out here, Indiana's here, Indianapolis. I got Fort Wayne up there. We go to the west here. There's Davenport, Iowa up here, St. Louis down here, and here's your line worth monitoring. And this line is actually warned for 70-mile-per-hour winds already in Illinois, but it will weaken as it crosses Illinois, or at least it's supposed to weaken a little bit. So we'll track it. That could be round one for us, and likely will be round one for us for that north-central part of the state. So again, if you're just tuning in here, I'll go ahead and recap everything really briefly. The two rounds to monitor right now. We're going to look at round one here on current radar. You're watching it right down Illinois. That's what's coming our way. And goodness gracious, it's early. That is what we're going to watch for round one between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern time. The models do bring it into the state of Indiana between 2 and 3 p.m. here. Here's 2 p.m. Eastern. Here's 3 p.m. It does weaken by the time we get to about 4 or 5 p.m. here as that line has moved into this east central part of the state. And then attention turns to round two as early as 6 p.m. But the main concern is back here forming Illinois. We're going to watch that area closely. That moves into the state after the 8 p.m. time frame, and that will have a risk for damaging wind and spin-up tornadoes within the line there throughout the 8 p.m. to about midnight or perhaps 1 a.m. time frame. And by the time we get to 2 a.m., all the storms are pretty much out of the state, with some areas still getting rain showers. But again, severe weather is over by that time frame. So that's that. And then the risk today, in our opinion, is highest currently in level 3 zones with that secondary risk after 8 p.m. Level 2 zone, though, we could see that first line taking at places like Rensselaer, Lafayette, Rochester areas. And that will be something to watch as well. But by the time it gets to the Fort Wayne, Angola area, it does weaken. And then that round two misses that area entirely. So hence why the risk we put is lower in that northeast corner of the state. Now, all hazards are possible tonight per the SPC. Damaging winds are primary concern. Highest in the pink zone, second highest in the red zone, and then third highest in that yellow zone. The risk for anything tornadic is also there, primarily in the western half of the state, but cannot rule it out in the eastern half, just in case storms do hold out a little bit longer than expected. But overall concern is much lower the further east you go for places like Fort Wayne down to the Cincinnati region on the Ohio border. Hail is not a huge concern, but they are highlighting a risk here, primarily for the western half of the state. But again, as I mentioned at the start of the stream, I don't think hail is a very high concern. If it is going to be a concern, it'll be with those storms around the dinner time frame on the western half of the state on the Illinois border. And then also, if these storms currently on radar out ahead of this main line do make it into Indiana, these may have a risk for some hail as well. But right now, that looks pretty subdued. So we'll see what they do in nature. These ones down here by Evansville look pretty potent. These may have some hail with them, but the lines should not have hail. The lines are more of a wind risk and a spin up tornado risk. So that's your recap. A lot going on here today, guys. 2 rounds to watch. I know it's confusing for some of you guys, but we'll be here to track it if need be. So stay tuned for the pages for updates. We'll have chasers out in the field. I don't know if we have anybody out right now, but I'll go ahead and check, because why not? Nope, nobody yet. But we do have a couple chasers going out to Illinois today to watch storms and track them into Indiana. So we'll be live if need be. In the meantime, I'm going to hop out of here. I'll have a video update out later on today as well. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit the like button on your way out.